Hi, hi. Nice to see you. Nice to see everyone. Thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. Um, I'm by myself today, so I'm just going to do a quick sort of Substack live today. I have a few things I want to talk about. One of the biggest things, obviously, was Iran and what's happening in Iran, and also talk about MAGA polling. As you probably see, there's a lot of people talking about this MAGA sort of type civil war that apparently is happening, but I don't think it's actually really happening. But yeah, so I thought I'd just talk about a few things today. Thanks, Kimmy. Thanks for that. Um, so I'll go off with initially. One of the things I wanted to talk about initially was the fact that a lot of people are saying, "Oh, look, um, there's an anti-war part of the MAGA movement." I would say this. I will say this to that. I actually don't think there's a really big anti-war part of the MAGA movement. I don't think it exists at a very big level. And I heard someone say online today that people like Tucker Carlson, people like Megan Kelly, people like Candace Owens are more anti-war than than most Democrats are. Um, I actually don't believe that. Firstly, Tucker Carlson doesn't represent the MAGA movement, and Tucker Carlson doesn't represent Republicans. If you look at all the polling at the moment, the overwhelming amount of support that Trump is getting in Iran is somewhere between 80 to 90%. And amongst MAGA Republicans, it's like a ridiculous amount. Like it's like, I think, close to 100%. So again, it's just a lot of this stuff is just not based on reality. Yeah, most of these people um, are not anti-war in any way, shape, or form. So I think that's a big thing to say about this is that there isn't some massive anti-war thing that's happening in the MAGA party. Hi, Stephanie. Thanks for joining. And there never has been, and there never will be. So there's nothing to be. There is no Tucker Carlson this and all that is better than the Democratic Party because Tucker Carlson um, says a lot of anti-war stuff, but I think what you it's mostly just chatter, and I think most of what he's basically pushing is stuff to do with, for example, um, you know, um, white nationalism. He's a big supporter of white nationalism, right? And that's Tucker Carlson's major thing. He always pushes. He will say things, for example, like Tucker Carlson will say things like, for example, "Oh, I think the Middle East isn't that bad. I think it's good some of the stuff they have in the Middle East." Um, and and the reason I think he says this is because I think Tucker Carlson isn't a fan of Islam. He's not a fan of the Middle East. But what he wants to do is he wants to create a Christian version of the Middle East and put that in the United States. So he's highlighting the positives of a theocratic state, right? Whether it be in the Middle East or anywhere else, so he can then push that, but not for Islam in the United States, but a Christian version of what they have in the Middle East. I think that's what he's pushing. I think he's a Christian white nationalist who would like to see the United States turn into a Christian theocratic state, and that's why I think he's favourable to a lot of these countries in the Middle East. So that's not necessarily anti-war. So yeah, but I will say that a lot of this stuff that we're seeing at the moment with Iran and all that sort of stuff is we're seeing we're seeing the Trump administration basically kind of not like not knowing what they're doing. And just this morning, there was a report in the New York Times, and in that report, the New York Times, they were basically saying that the king, the prince of Saudi Arabia, he wants the United States to keep going in this war because they want to see they want to see Iran eradicated from this particular area in terms of the power. So there is definitely some influence. This idea that Donald Trump has no control over Israel is complete BS. I don't believe any of that stuff that Trump is being forced into doing this because of Israel. I think that's all BS. Now, of course, Israel has is lobbying the US to do stuff. Of course, that's happening. But the idea that this is only happening because of Israel is complete BS. Trump's been talking about Iran since the 80s. Yeah, he's been talking about Iran since the 80s. So I don't believe this is just because of Israel. Um, Israel makes it a bit easier for America because they do a lot of the bombing, and therefore that takes a lot of the pressure off the United States in terms of what they're doing. So I don't believe this is an Israel thing. Of course, Israel is going to lobby Trump to do it, but at the end of the day, it's up to Trump to make that decision, right? And the crazy thing about all these people like Tucker Carlson and even that Joe Kent who left the administration, a lot of them will keep saying things like they're too scared to criticize Trump himself. So what they do is they actually criticize the people around Trump, like he has no power over his own decisions, right? And so they will say, "Oh, Trump's being manipulated. Trump's being manipulated by Israel, by Bibi, by the Israeli lobby, all this sort of stuff." And at the same time, these are the same people who are saying Joe Biden had no control over what he was doing. And it was actually the people around Joe Biden who were actually running the Biden administration. And now they're saying the same thing about Trump, is they're basically saying he's too weak. Trump's too weak to control his own administration, like being able to do what he wants to do. Like he can't make his own decisions. So you can't criticize Joe Biden for doing that and then say, "Oh well, Trump, he doesn't really want to do it, but he's being bullied into doing it." Well, that's kind of the opposite of what the Trump administration was saying about why you should vote for Trump and why Joe Biden was so bad. But I do think from an outsider's perspective, from an Australian's perspective, um, that a lot of countries like my country, Australia, the UK, Europe, um, all those type of places, we've pushed back against joining the war in any big way. Like I think the UK has allowed the US military to go on some of its UK bases, but in terms of sending warships or military people, so far we have all said no, including Australia, Europe, the UK. We haven't offered any help in terms of military help, and I really do hope it stays that way. Um, I really do. I mean, I can certainly understand the pressure that countries like mine are under, like the Trump, my administration, the UK, because a lot of countries like mine, they do rely on um, on America for its military help, and so it's not as easy for a lot of people. Go, oh, just tell the US to f off, tell Trump to get lost and whatever. And look, that's easier said than done because at the end of the day, we do need the United States for protection. The UK needs America for protection. Europe needs America for protection. Ukraine needs America for protection. So it's too easy to say in real life to just tell the Trump administration to F off, because that can certainly be a bad things for country. Unfortunately, Trump does have control of a country that is very powerful and can affect the rest of the world. And so we have to tread lightly in how we talk about. Now, the other thing is, look, I guess the question is, would the reason we're not telling America to F off is because we still believe to some extent that if something happened to Australia, if we were invaded or whatever it was, that America would come to our aid, right? Now, the question is, would they actually come to our aid? I think now, normally, that question would be easy to answer. You would easily be able to say, something happens to Australia, America will come to our aid. That was like a given. Now, it's like, I'm not sure. Now, I'm not saying 100% they wouldn't. They might, but the fact that I have to hesitate, and the fact that in Australia or the UK, but not with Trump yet, UK, Europe, the fact that we have to hesitate when we think about would America come to our aid is a really big issue, because yes, Stephanie, but we're not with Trump. Yeah, exactly, not with Trump. Yeah. Now, look, even with Trump, there's still a chance America would come to our aid. I don't, but that's not the point. Like, the point is, why do we have to think about it? The fact that we have to like hesitate, right? The fact that we have to like think maybe he will, maybe he wouldn't. That's a big problem. Yeah, there should be no hesitation. Now, I'm not saying 100% he wouldn't do it. There's a chance he might come to aid, but the fact that we have to think about it is a really big problem. And I think it's why a lot of countries like Australia, Europe, the UK, do sometimes go, you know, we we're more hesitant to push back against Trump and the US administration, because and we're doing it in a nice way. Like, we're not trying to put America offside, because again, we have to think about ourselves as well. And unfortunately, America does play a massive role. I think a lot of people like my country, the UK, Europe, I think they're just buying their time until Trump leaves, right? That's what they're thinking. They're thinking he has damaged our relationship with allies. Exactly, Karen. He has absolutely damaged your relationship with allies. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, he has. Because the thing is, Karen, we never had to think about this. This is the big thing. Like, if you go back to Joe Biden, Barack Obama, even George W. Bush, forget Republican, Democrat, any other party in modern history, Australia would have just assumed they would come to our aid. Also, it's not just all one way. By the way, in the middle of Australia, we have some massive satellites, some massive US equipment, and basically it's there to keep an eye on China on behalf of America, right? So, because we're based in Asia and Australia, we're not that far from China, and therefore America has military bases in Australia. They have satellites in Australia. So a lot of that stuff is in Australia. So if China were to do something to America, right, they would get advanced knowledge of that because of all the bases America has in Australia. So it's a two-way thing, right? So it's a two-way thing, and America can use Australia as a base for Asia, right? Which is like a thing that it needs. So it is a two-way thing. But yeah, it is a big thing that we do sort of hesitate in wondering if the US will come to our aid. And as I said, I don't think I could see that happening with any other country, any other president of the United States. So it's not necessarily a Democrat Republican thing. It's pretty much just a Trump thing, right? So it's just a Trump thing. So, yeah, so he's definitely damaged our relationship there. I think, as far as Australia goes, I in the Middle East and places like that, I think Australia will probably stay out of the way, because that's all it can do. We just don't have the military capability, to do that much. I will say the only, positive thing that Trump has done is that he's encouraged other countries like mine and the UK and Europe to spend more money on their military, which will make them more independent of the United States. Because being so dependent on the United States, has we now see wasn't just a positive thing. It was always dependent on who the president of the United States was, right? So, from that point of view, I think it would be good for the rest of the world or the Western world, um, to become a little bit more sort of, a bit more sort of powerful in that sense. So we don't have to rely on the United States all the time. Um, but yeah, and I guess the other thing is tying into that is the the MAGA world, right? So we have the sort of MAGA world, which has been very, very much behind what Trump has done. And I think what it basically means is there is no in the Republican Party, right? There is no sort of independent thinkers, right? There is no like, um, yeah, in the actual hardcore Republican Party, because Trump basically campaigns nonstop, right? Trump campaigned nonstop, yep, about being anti-war and not wanting to do this, all that sort of stuff. He campaigned really heavily on that, yep, and now he does the opposite. And in terms of the hardcore MAGA base, he's not losing anyone, right? He's not losing anyone. So he was never he was never anti-war. Republican Party never became anti-war. I think what happened was, um, there were parts when Trump came out and he said they loved. I think what it is Trump supporters. Trump is a pathological liar. That's right, Stephanie. He is. Yeah. Thanks, Eleanor, for joining. Yeah, that's right. And I think that's the case. Like I think a lot of the problems that we're seeing at the moment is that um, is that I think the people in the media get their news from Twitter. I think Twitter's a big problem in terms of how narratives get started. And what I mean by that is, like with this whole anti-war thing, right? Um, what you see a lot of people in the media, I'm talking about mainstream media, they will say there is a MAGA civil war going at the moment. So what makes them think there's a MAGA civil war? Well, they think that because a lot of journalists and a lot of media are on Twitter. That's where they get a lot of their news from. So they're on Twitter and they see people like Tucker Carlson, who's very big on Twitter and online. They see Megyn Kelly, who's very big on Twitter online, right? Candace Owens, all these people who are considered part of the MAGA movement, and they see them fighting with other Republicans, right? Like Ted Cruz, Donald Trump, um, Mark Levine, Ben Shapiro, who are more old school conservative type people, more like Fox News people, who are more interventionist, right? And someone at the New York Times or the Washington Post or anywhere, they spend so much time on Twitter. Hi, Marnie, good to see you again, Marnie. They spend so much time on Twitter that they start to believe that Twitter is a representation of real life. Twitter is not a representation of real life, right? And unfortunately, a lot of these people have come to the belief that it is. And if you're a journalist, a lot of the ways that in the old school days, before online media was a big thing like Twitter, they would rely more on things like polling, which is more scientific, right? Hi, Bunny. They could say polling is way more scientific than what someone says on Twitter, right? But all they do, a lot of the media, is they will see Tucker Carlson arguing with Ben Shapiro, and they're two prominent people, and they think, oh my God, civil war, right? Now, the problem is with that argument is that you're assuming now that the majority of MAGA and you're assuming that the majority of Republicans are on Twitter every day talking about politics, which is just not true. A big part of MAGA and Twitter are older people like boomers, and they watch Fox News or they don't watch news at all. They don't really watch a lot of news, right? And those people don't even know who a lot of these people are. They would know who Tucker Carlson is because he was at Fox News, but they're probably not following him now that he's online, right? They would know nothing about Candace Owens, and they would only know Megyn Kelly from when she was at Fox News, but they're probably not following her anymore, right? So, eh, that's the big thing here, right? Is that too many people have become convinced that the online world is the real world, and it's just not. Let me give you a perfect example of this, right? Based on data, right? Everyone says it's a civil war now, and a lot of the people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and these people online who are against the war in Iran, right? A lot of people seem to think I got off Twitter shortly after evil Elon took it over. I thought there was a lot of Russian foreign. Yeah, exactly, Marnie. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think a lot of people did get off it. But that's good. Yeah. But even like YouTube or anywhere else, it's very easy to get into these echo chambers where you start to believe what you're surrounded by is real life. But it's not real life, right? It's not real life. Even Substack is not a representation of real life. If you go on Blue Sky, it's pretty much all left-wing people. Again, that's not a true representation of real life. Most people who vote do not follow politics very closely. Most people who vote are not online, and if they are online, they're watching Netflix or they're watching streaming services or they're on TikTok watching people dance. They're not discussing politics every day. So it's really important to stay grounded in that this isn't real life in terms of it is real life, but it's not a representation of everything. And I think the media, mainstream media, which I support, by the way, I am a supporter of the mainstream media. I still think they're very, very important. Is they get too caught up on what's happening on Twitter, and they start to believe that what they're seeing on Twitter is real. And again, the MAGA civil war is a perfect example of that, because now, all these people, as I said before, Tucker Carlson, all they're talking about is Iran. They're constantly talking about the war, right? The war in Iran, bang, bang, bang. So if there was a MAGA civil war happening, we would see that in the polling. We would see MAGA polling 50% against the war in Iran and 50% against the war in Iraq. So 50% for, 50% against, right? That would be like a civil war. It'd be like, my God, I can't believe MAGA are completely split on whether they're pro going into Iran or not. Now, the reality is it's probably close to 100%. We saw that CNN poll where the hardcore MAGA base was like 100% supporting the war in Iran. There are other polls where they're Republicans, but they're not hardcore. It's around 85, 90%. That is not a civil war, right? When 90% plus of a particularly hardcore movement is all agreeing with that the war in Iran is a good thing, that's not a civil war. But the media got conflated. They conflated a couple of high profile people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, and they conflated them with the MAGA movement. They're not the part of the MAGA movement that they represent is a very, very small part of the MAGA movement. And they also, if you look at Tucker Carlson and people like that, you will also see a lot of independents on there. There'll be a lot of people who don't consider themselves Democrats, and they don't consider themselves. They're just. He's also got. They've also got a lot of support amongst the conspiratorial people. So people who are really into conspiracies, right? At the moment, the conspiracy thing is really big on Twitter. And it's not just on the right. I'm seeing it more on the left now with conspiracies as well. So, the online world is more hyper partisan, is more conspiratorial, and is it's not it, but it's not a true representation of everyday people in America, in Australia, the UK, or even Europe. So it's just the fact that there is no MAGA civil war, because if there was, we wouldn't be seeing 100% support by MAGA. I don't know. Like, do the math. I don't think that's a civil war. Yeah, when 100% of people, or close to 100% of people, are supporting Trump. Well, I don't know. If 100% of people were against slavery, I don't think there would have been a civil war. That's just me. But yeah, so again, I think we need to distance ourselves from what you hear online, and of course, a lot of stuff that happens on Twitter that gets passed on to Substack and other things. So it's sort of, there's like a crossover there, with those different types of things, of different parties and stuff like that. But I think ultimately, um, in terms of polling, it's still not good. I mean, in saying that 100% of MAGA support Trump is still not a good thing for the Republican Party, because of course you can't win elections just with your base, right? You have to win independents and swing voters. And they have gone away from Trump in droves. And they're the ones that really matter. The ones that matter are the independent voters and swing voters, right? And they are not with Trump at all. And they are going more down, down, down more as it goes along. So, no, there is no civil war in MAGA, but there's certainly been um, people who, because remember, a lot of people who voted for Trump in 2024, they wouldn't consider themselves MAGA. They were people who voted for Trump because inflation was up, right? They were spending, inflation was up, prices were up, right? All that sort of stuff. So that's the reason why. That's the reason why they voted for him. They didn't vote for him. They weren't showing up at the rallies and putting on the red hats and all that sort of stuff. They weren't doing any of that, right? So yeah, so again, it's, I think a lot of it is, basically airy fairy. It's not real, the Civil War, but Trump, the Republican Party is in big trouble, because without the independent swing voters, they're not going to win. They can't win with that. They picked up a lot of the swing voters. They picked up a lot of the independents, and that's how they won the last election. Yeah, it wasn't with just the MAGA party. These are folks that don't pay much attention to politics. Exactly, Marnie. They don't. A lot of people, independents, swing voters, and to be honest, the people that matter when it comes to winning elections. You can't win. Democrats can't win with just a Democratic base, right? Um, and and Republicans can't win with just the Republican base. You need independents and you need swing voters. And these days, those people will mostly vote. Will mostly vote based on economics. That will be their number one issue. They might have other issues that they will vote on. For example, immigration, or the war in Iran. The war in Iran is actually worse than a lot of other conflicts, and the reason for that is because other conflicts that maybe they weren't. I'm not talking about the war in Iraq or anything like that. But I'm talking about smaller conflicts where it doesn't involve boots on the ground. That's sort of like it's more bombing. That's sort of like more like what we're seeing at the moment. Um, it could go further than that. Generally, people will be against it, but it won't affect everybody because if they don't notice it at home, like if you don't notice it at home, a lot of people who don't pay attention to politics, it won't be the deciding factor. But the difference between this war and other conflicts and other things. Hi, Sandra. Good to see you. Difference between this conflict and other conflicts is that it's affecting the price of gas. It's affecting the price of diesel. It's affecting economically. It's having a major impact around the world. Hi, Sandra. Good to see you again. Yeah, so it's affecting a lot of people, and for that reason, I think it's going to be um, a big factor in this war at the next election in the midterms. You got a haircut. I did get a haircut. I hope you like it. It was getting my hair was getting a bit too woolly, bit too long. Actually, it got way too long, and the reason for that is, yeah, the reason I saw a video of an old lady, triple trumper, vote filling up and pump and says she guessed she was stupid for believing him. Yeah, exactly, Marnie. Exactly, exactly. And that's the thing. Like the thing is, like, um, you've got to, you've got to like. I think for a lot of Trump supporters, they're more concerned about, um, they're more concerned about economics than anything else. I don't even think war overseas would be a major factor. I think, but what's different about this war, as I said before, is that this is affecting the economics. And when people are filling up their car with gas, the haircut does look great. Thanks, Marnie. Appreciate that. I'll pass on the feedback to my hairdresser, Mikey. Mikey's been my hairdresser for 5 years now. He owns a hairdressing salon. Great guy. Pumps up the music when I go around there. He's a really nice guy. Um, but anyway, away from my hair for a moment, I will just say one more thing about my hair. Um, I I did try like this time when I got my hair cut. Um, I I found that they put this like shampoo into my hair before my hair got cut, and basically the shampoo really like I wasn't sure what was going on, but it was like tingly. I was starting to get this like massive tingly feeling with the shampoo, and I started thinking that it was like burning my hair or something or my scalp. It was like weird. I've never had that shampoo put on my hair before. But it was like, yeah, look, there's someone joining and they're thinking, why is he talking about his hair? Like, yeah. Okay, so let's not talk about my hair anymore. But yeah, I don't know if you've had that shampoo where it's got like that tingly feeling in your hair. Um, and it's just like feels like it's burnt. I didn't like it. I didn't say anything because I love my hairdressers, but I didn't like that sort of tingly feeling. It didn't feel good. But anyway, we'll go back around. Probably Nioxin. I don't know what that is. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, because she said the person that's putting my hair in the shampoo in my hair. She said, "Oh, you're gonna love this. People love this shampoo," and I didn't love it. I wasn't a big fan of it. Yeah, I mean, I I like shampoo that makes your hair feel like, I would have said something. Yeah, I I probably actually I did say something, but not in a big way. Because the person who washes your hair is different to the person who cuts your hair, and the person who washes your hair, she's like 19, 20, so she's like a junior person, but the person who cut my hair, Mikey, who owns the salon, he said, "Oh, did you like the new shampoo we're using now?" And I said, it's not really like my thing." And he went, "Oh, cool, okay, no worries." So I kind of did say something, but I didn't say it to the person who did it. because she was only like young, and it's not her fault. It's not. She didn't make the shampoo go tingly. Yeah, Joe. Yeah, the tingling shampoo. Joe's taking a hard pass. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it. I feel actually, Marty. I think I feel more strongly about that shampoo than I do about America going into Iran. That's how strongly I feel about it. I really do. I feel because the thing is that it took a lot of enjoyment away from my haircut, and also, the tingly feeling went away. The tingly feeling went away, and then I got home because I had my haircut like at 6:30, and then I got home, and then I went to go to sleep, and then it came back again. So the tingly feeling came back, and so I was trying to sleep, and I couldn't sleep because of the tingly feeling. So I went and had a shower to try to wash it to get it out of my hair, and it went away. It went away again, and went away again, and then about an hour later, it came back again, and then I woke up in the morning, it was gone, and then that afternoon, about 3 o'clock, it came back again. And then after that, it went away. So it's like 24 hours of a tingly feeling. So again, I don't know what it was. I don't recommend it. I mean, it wasn't like hurting me. It was just like annoying me. You know what I mean? Like just having it. It was. You know what it was? It was like nits. Have you ever had nits? Do you call it lice? You call it lice. In Australia, we call it nits. Like lice in your hair. I had it when I was like 10 years old. That's what it felt like. It felt like lice in your hair. Like it felt like kind of itchy, but kind of, like you're not sure what's going on there, sort of thing. Yeah. Anyway, that probably went a little bit longer than I thought. I don't remember what I was talking about now. Jet, don't get me started on like that stuff. I don't know who started. Who started that? Who started that? Be sure to tell Mike. Yeah, I'll tell Mikey that next time. I think it's important to have that sort of thing. And also, I think it's good for us to bond here over these things, because, I've had it. You need to report back what brand it is. Now I'm really curious. Yeah. Oh, Sandra. Did Sandra start that? Yeah. Okay. That doesn't surprise me. Sandra started that. Yeah. So it wasn't even my fault that got me going on about that. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I will report back what it is. I have, I have 100%. Thanks, Sandra. Um, I I have asked other people about it. I went to a barbecue on the weekend. I went to a barbecue on the weekend, and I was thinking it was like 3 or 4 days after I got my hair cut, and I was thinking I'm not going to talk about it because I'd been talking about it too much, and a few people had told me to stop talking about it. And so I thought, you know what, I'm not even going to discuss it at the barbecue. And then I was pretty good for about 2 hours, and then I brought it up. And interestingly enough, there was a few people there who said they had the same experience with, that hair that makes your hair tingle. And, and they showed me on this, this is a friend of mine, her name's Lisa, and she goes, "Oh, Joe, look, this is the one." Um, and she showed me, like, online the shampoo that she had that gave her like made her hair feel weird. And now, because I was at the hairdressers, I had my hair back. You're like on the basin, so you can't see. But I do remember when as I was standing up to leave, I sort of looked back because I wanted to have a look at what the brand was. And I do remember that it was a green bottle. It was definitely a green bottle, and what my friend showed me at the barbecue was a green bottle. Now I don't know, I didn't see the writing or the brand, so I think that might have been the bottle, and it has like I can't remember the ingredient, but there's something in it that makes it like give you that feeling in your hair, and on the back of it, it says there's a warning on the back. It says stop using if it makes your scalp feel like hot or red, right? And so the fact that they put that on the back sort of shows, and yeah, and it also said, okay, this part I probably shouldn't admit. I went online I went online onto one of those posts, like, I Googled it online, and I found a couple of forums where people were having the same experience. There was actually one forum that went back 5 years and hundreds of people who'd had the same experience as I did. So it's, look, I think if I can be an ambassador for this thing that a lot of people don't know about, probably a hair growth shampoo like stimulant. Yeah, it could be. Oh wow, yeah. So I want to be. You know how some people are ambassadors for certain foundations. For causes. I'd love to be an ambassador for this because I think it's something that happens a lot more, and people are too ashamed to talk about it. And I'm glad that I'm talking about it. And if I can help one other person who's experienced tingly hair, then I've done my job here today. So I think that's important. But moving on, I wanted to talk about something else today. And that is basically who do I think ambassador for hair sensitivity? Yeah, Kimmy, I think I would love to be that. Yeah. Um, I wouldn't want to use with that kind of warning on bottle. Now, I will say, Marnie, that a lot of stuff does have warning labels on it. So I wasn't really like put off by that a little bit, because I didn't really read the label. But yeah, I think with your hair positivity is important, Kimmy. Absolutely. And there's not a lot. People think that hair is kind of a vain thing or whatever it is, or superficial. I think it's more than that. I think I think having hair is a fantastic. Now, not all people have hair, and I support people who don't have hair just as much as I support people who do have hair. I certainly don't discriminate against that. But while I still have hair, I want to be ambassador for people who do. So I do feel strongly about that. But the thing is that Nibbles also has fur. She has hair as well. It's funny though, because with Nibbles, my dog Nibbles, a couple of months ago, she had like a skin sensitivity where she was scratching herself all the time, and we had actually used. We did actually get a new shampoo for Nibbles, and but it didn't happen straight away. It was like a week later, and then Nibbles just started like scratching herself all the time. And I took her to the vets, and they weren't sure it was a shampoo. They said it could be the shampoo, or it could actually be something she's eaten. So they weren't sure about which one of those it was, whether it was something she's eaten or the shampoo. So I don't know. I don't know which one it was, but Um, but I will say that's, it runs in the family. Okay. Hair sensitivity around either fur or hair does run in the family. So it doesn't surprise me that she would be experiencing the same thing. And her dad is also experiencing the same thing as well. So we're all experiencing the same thing. Um, but yeah, but I was going to say that going into the midterms, I was going to ask you guys this as well. Is who do you think? Who do you think in the Democratic Party, right? Who do you think in the Democratic Party would be the one that would going into the midterms should represent Nibbles or extra pets for Nibbles, please? Yeah, I will. Who do you think in the Democratic Party would be the best person because I feel like at the moment, Chuck Schumer is not the right person, right? Nibbles, okay, yeah, Nibbles would be good. I not the right person to be, you know, representing, the Democratic Party, and I was thinking someone like James Tallarico. Um, I thought that guy would be really good at representing that. Hi, Bob. Good to see you, Bob. Bob, I just got to say, you did miss some very, very important conversations um, about politics. Yeah, very important conversations, Bob. can't go into it right now, but yeah, go back and watch it later. It was very detailed stuff about Iran politics, that sort of stuff, and there was no conversation about my hair, yeah, at all. So, but yeah, but I think Schumer and Jeffries are both awful. Schumer and Jeffries are both awful. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I've got to stop meeting this. Yeah, Schumer and Jeffries are both awful. Yeah, yeah, I think so too. I think so too. They're probably good at stuff like I think they're probably good at stuff like keeping the party together. Do you know what I mean? Like keeping it together. But I like the idea of someone a little bit younger, like a James Tellerico. I really do like James Tellerico um, as a sort of more leadership person within the Democratic Party. I think it'd be good because I think at the moment I'm just not feeling inspired by a lot of the people in the Democratic Party. And it'd be good to see sort of more of that, more of that sort of, um, like younger leadership, a little bit more charisma, that sort of stuff, instead of just the usual same people who come out. I'm sure Chuck Schumer and Jeffries are good at doing a lot of I hope the Republicans don't tear Tellerico the sheds. Yeah. Now, I "Hey, Joe, do you have a girlfriend or are you married, may I ask?" "Oh, Kimmy. Well, Kimmy, um, am I married or do I have a girlfriend?" Great question, great question. I'm gonna answer this with, have you ever seen and does Nibbles have a boyfriend? Okay. Um, I'll start with Nibbles. Nibbles, um, Nibbles is currently single. And she's currently on a dating app called Paws. I don't know if you've heard of Paws, but she meets other dogs on Paws and they go on dates and yeah, like that. She's kind of, you know, she's 10 years old now, so she's kind of a little bit old. She's still dating. She still thinks she's young enough to date. But um, but yeah, she's pretty good. For me, I'm married. I am married, but I usually wear a wedding ring, and I usually wear a wedding ring, but um, I didn't today because I went to the gym, and when I go to the gym, I don't wear it. Now, that sounds really bad that I don't wear a wedding ring when I go to the gym, but it's because when you do weights, I'm worried it's going to break, damage the ring, so I take it off. So I forgot to put it back on again. But yeah, I'm married. Yeah, I don't talk too much about that part of it because she's not really into that politics side of it. So I do worry about privacy and stuff like that a little bit. So I try not to talk too much about my private life that much. I mean, I've talked about my son-in-law. So talked a lot about my son Coben, but yeah, but yeah. So what was I talking about? Yeah, so I think Paul's dating out for senior pups. Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think Nibbles. I think Nibbles would. Um, yeah, I think Nibbles would. Nibbles is. I'm gonna say this. She's never. This is the truth. Nibbles has never been in a relationship with anyone. She's been single her whole life. Um, and she's never been on a date. She's never been in a relationship with anyone. Um, and I know that sounds cruel. I can see why she might want privacy. Yeah, yeah, my dog. Yeah, and I think, I think because of that, Nibbles, whenever I look at Nibbles, I have to say this, I never think of her gender. Now, this isn't some woke thing of I don't see gender thing. I'm not talking like that. It's just that I never look at Nibbles as like female male, even though she's female, because she doesn't really she she doesn't really act a certain way, you know what I mean? Like she's just very like she's just Nibbles. Yeah. So you know how some people dress their dogs up to be either like really female or really male, whatever. With Nibbles, she was just always Nibbles. And yeah. So hi Patricia, thanks for joining. It's a really good conversation about politics today. You're gonna love this. Um, so yeah, what was I talking about? Yeah, so back to who I thought. I've been wondering what you do for work outside of American politics. You don't have to answer if you're not comfortable. Oh, okay. So I won't go into too much about what I do, but I do have a job, but it's my own. I own my own business, so that's probably why I have more free time than maybe other people do because it's my own business. It's a small business, and it's in marketing. So I work in marketing, and it's a small business that I own. Yeah, and so that's why I kind of yeah. So gender neutral. Yeah, she's gender neutral. Yeah, me too. Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah. Nibbles is more introverted pup. When you say me too, do you mean you work in marketing or at home? Hi, James. Good to see you. Nibbles is more introverted pup. Yeah, she is. Actually, she's quite good. Yeah, she's quite um, extroverted as well. Yeah, but just not now. Like if there's other people around, she can be super. Hi, James. Good to see you. If there's other people around, she can be very, very sort of, loud. She'll be playful, all that sort of stuff. She doesn't act at all like a senior dog, and most people don't even realize I have my own business, small, not marketing. Okay, great. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's good. If you can own a small business, I never used to own a small business, but if you can own one, there are positives and negatives. Yeah. Positives is you get to work, make your own decisions. Negatives is, you kind of, it all depends on you. What type of things do you market for? So I don't specifically market for one particular thing. I sort of market for everything. Um, I also, some of the stuff that I do involves politics in terms of polling. So in polling, so yeah, so my business can sometimes help with polling stuff for that sort of stuff. So, but the marketing can be anything. It could be any type of business. But yeah, we do some work for political organisations who want help with polling. We don't actually do the polling ourselves, but we sort of do some of the we it's too hard to explain, yeah, but it's kind of involves a lot of polling. Yeah, yeah. So that's probably why I got a big interest in polling and things like that. And I understand how polling companies work and all that sort of stuff because I sort of deal with a lot of the polling companies directly and we help them out with that sort of stuff. So yeah, so but that's actually not what yeah. So I went to university. It's not what I studied. I studied at university. I studied politics and history. So that's what I went to university for. But I just never got. I just sort of fell into marketing and advertising, like TV advertising. I was in for a while, and then I went into marketing. Yeah. What about Tammy Duckworth? Tammy Duckworth. Ah, Karen. Mm, maybe, maybe, maybe Tammy Duckworth. Yeah, yeah. I don't know a lot about Tammy Duckworth, um, but I would probably, for me, I don't know. Like, I like people like, for me, people that I like people. Yeah, maybe Tammy. Actually, I do know who she is now. Now that you said that, yeah, yeah. It would be. You know what I think it would be good. I think it would be good to have a few different people um, that speak on behalf of the Democratic Party, who are not just Chuck. Now I know AOC will talk and things like that as well, and other people will have conversations as well. But um, yeah, the reason I like James Dellarico is because I'd love to see Texas become. I'm with you on Joe Tallarico. There's something calming about him. Yeah, I think the thing about James Tallarico is I think he would bring a lot across a lot of the swing voters, um, because you, now I think as a Democrat or someone on the left, you want someone. It's sometimes easy to be attracted to someone who is um, a bit of a firebrand and wants to attack the right all the time. But James Tallarico doesn't really do that. And when I think about objectively what's going to be better for the Democrats in the midterms, um, is going to be someone who can not demonize all Republican voters and be someone who goes across the aisle. And I think the reason James Tallarico might be good is because he has that religious aspect to him. But religion, I really prefer Joseph Ossoff more than any of them. Yeah, have to run, Joe. Thanks for hanging. Thanks, Kimmy. I have to go soon too. Yeah, John Ossoff is also very good. I have to say, Sandra, um, s yeah, John Ossoff is also one of my favorites as well. Yeah, both John Ossoff and James Tallarico, are two of my favorites, yeah. Anyway, I was actually gonna only do a quick one today because I do actually have to be somewhere, but thank you so much everyone for coming today. Sorry it was a bit quicker than usual. Thank you. I definitely need to be someone with more broad appeal. Exactly, Karen, I 100% agree. It will definitely need to be someone with broad appeal. It can't just be someone who one side loves and is so I think it has to be someone who goes across the aisle into sort of more Republican areas. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Marty. Thanks, Sandra. Thanks, Kimmy. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Bob, if you're still there. Thank you, everyone. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Marty. Bye.